Hi there again, Chris Klein, Director of Butterfly Ridge Butterfly Conservation Center. Once again, we're back outside. Although I'll be honest, I'm doing this video kind of last minute. It's Sunday afternoon here, trying to get it in before the freezing rain hits. And the area that we're shooting from today has been a muddy mess up until the ground froze a day or two ago. So that's why we're kind of hitting things a little late. But anyways, I've had several people asking me, since we've grown so much stuff from seed, wanting to know more details as far as exactly how we did it. And so that's why I'm outside today. So I can share with you exactly how we grow stuff from seed. I realize our setup's probably a little bit different than a lot of folks. But you know, everything's adaptable to your particular situation. And so we're going to start out by turning the camera around here. There we go. So that's our greenhouse, one of two greenhouses. And you can see the two solar panels. They're attached to the greenhouse, and you'll learn more about those when we go inside. The greenhouses, we got those from Shelter Logic, and not brutally expensive. I mean, expensive enough. Probably like, I think they were like $500 or $600 each, and we've got two of them. Kind of the downside with them, though, is that these skins, this woven poly material skin doesn't really hold up very good, so we're typically having to replace those skins every 2 years, and unfortunately they are kind of pricey. If I recall, like $250, $300 a pop. And so, for example, if I can weave my way back out of here walking backwards, this past winter we chose not to replace the skin on the second greenhouse because it's so expensive, and we weren't really planning this the coming spring to really be growing that much that we would need the two greenhouses. Whereas when we were first developing Butterfly Ridge, April and May of like 2017, we had both greenhouses as full as we could get them. So since we're starting to back off a little bit, that's why we didn't replace the skin on that that other greenhouse. And so we're going to go inside now, and I'll give you an idea of how we manage inside the greenhouses and whatnot. Okay, so now we're inside the greenhouse. The very first thing I want to show you is the other end of those solar panels, and that is that Rubbermaid tub right there. You can see that nice bright 14.0. That tells me that our two deep cycle batteries that we have inside the tub are fully charged and ready to go when we need them. Let me pop the lid off the tub here so you can see what's going on inside. So you can see we got two deep cycle batteries. We've got an inverter in there, which happens to be upside down at the time. A regulator, which is the pretty green lights there. And so once again, those solar panels outside, they are converting the sun's energy into energy that we can use inside in the form of electricity. And typically what we use that solar energy for is to run heat mats. And so you can see right here, okay, that's an electric heat mat. And so we can plug that into that inverter I show you that's inside the Rubbermaid tub, and that's how we can run heat mats in here. So traditionally we've started seed in here middle of February, beginning part of March, and have never lost anything to getting too cold. Okay, now in fact we've lost things getting too hot, but never anything to getting too cold. Now, one of the things you'll notice with us is that we're tightwads. We're kind of dumpster divers, okay, here at Butterfly Ridge. And we try very hard to pretty much pay for nothing or pay very, very little. And so, for example, our shelving, the white shelves, that's stuff that we stole off of my dad. We found in his basement. He didn't want it anymore, so we've converted into plant shelving. These shelves right here, we stole off my brother, who wasn't using them anymore. All the pots are recycled from the little six packs are recycled from when we've planted marigolds and tomatoes and that kind of stuff. The larger pots are actually recycled from when I worked at Franklin Park Conservatory, and chrysanthemums and stuff came in those, and the conservatory didn't want the pots. The one exception, we did purchase these plastic shelf tops here. We very intentionally did not buy the legs for them though. As you can see, we use concrete block for the legs, just because once again we're cheap. Didn't want to pay for legs that we were afraid would be all wiggly and not very secure, so we used the concrete block. As you can see, we got a pile of legs right there. Okay. Our soil mix that we use right here, it's Pro Mix, their premium all-purpose mix. We started off with using Miracle-Gro potting mix, and it worked fine. The plants seemed to like it, but over time we would get soil fungus that would develop in the pots. And while the soil fungus wasn't necessarily damaging the plants, what was happening is forming this really gross crust on the top of the soil in the pots, so that when you watered them, the water wasn't actually getting into the soil. It was creating a barrier, and then we'd have to go through and peel all that crust off of all those pots. Very time consuming. So that's why we ditched the Miracle-Gro potting mix and went to the Pro Mix instead. You'll also notice we've got a bunch of these Rubbermaid trash cans in here. The Rubbermaid cans are all filled with water. Keep in mind it's 26 degrees outside, but there's only a little bit of ice here, not much. Okay. Why we have the water cans, couple reasons. Number one, the water cans, the idea is in the daytime, of course, keeping in mind this is Ohio, where the sun rarely shines, at least in the winter. But keeping in mind, during the daytime, sun shines on the greenhouse, goes through the plastic, warms it up, heats up the water that's in the trash cans, and then at night when it cools off, then you get radiant heat being released by the trash cans to help keep the place warm. Another thing that we do to try to add another layer of warmth is we will put an extra layer of plastic over the over the top of the greenhouse. And in fact, I've got my roll of plastic down there waiting to be added to the top. We'll probably be doing that here in the next week or two. What we've done, this is actually a trick that I learned from a guy named Bob White. He and his wife Bev, they owned B&B Cactus Farm in Tucson, Arizona, where I worked for a summer. And this is how they would keep their greenhouses warm in the wintertime. Spread plastic over the top of the greenhouse. How you get it over the top. Now Bob used candy. We use golf balls. And what we do is we tie golf balls into the corner of the plastic. And then we tie a rope around the golf ball and kind of use that golf ball to help grab a hold of the rope, so to speak. We throw the ropes over the top of the greenhouse, and then we just pull on the ropes to pull the plastic up over the top of the greenhouse. And then those ropes, what we've done is we've taken, I'm sure you've seen, they're like a little corkscrew post that you can screw into the ground and hook up your dog's leash or whatever to it. We've got those little corkscrew things on each corner of the greenhouse. We tie those ropes from the plastic, there we go, onto those little corkscrew things that's in the ground, and that's what holds the plastic in place. So once again, that we do that to add an extra layer of heat in here. Let's see how we actually do the seeds. That's probably what we should talk about next. We've got, as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of these old flats that we got tomatoes and marigolds and stuff in. And so what we do, there's a nice shot of the bobcat on my shirt. We line those flats with newspaper, and then we pour the soil mix inside, and then we sprinkle, we water in that soil real good, sprinkle our seeds over the top. In some cases we cover the seeds with soil, in some cases we don't. It depends on the size of the seed. The bigger the seed, the more soil you sprinkle on top. So for example, like a milkweed seed, which is fairly good size, we'll put like 1/8 of an inch of soil on the top, maybe a tad more than that, 3/16. Whereas, for example, cardinal flower seed, which is like dust, we don't cover it at all. Okay. You can see we've got the white tags there, so we can kind of keep track of what we planted. And then, to help protect the seeds and the seedlings from the cold that might seep in, despite all of our other efforts, what we do is we take old empty flats, put them on the top like that of the flats that we have the seeds in, and then we put a layer of plastic over the top of that. And so actually the heat that's being generated by the heat mat actually gets held in thanks to the plastic. It gets held in like right there by where the seeds are, which helps keep them warm. By using this empty tray, that way we keep the plastic directly off of the seeds and the seedlings, because we don't want the plastic to hurt the seedlings. Let's see here, what else do I want to mention while we're in? Oh, we tend to pot things up here fairly quickly. So once my little seedlings, once they get 3 or 4 sets of true leaves on them, we pot them up. And depending on what it is, they'll get potted up either into those 6-packs there or those larger pots. Usually what are going to be larger plants, milkweed, colic root, blazing star, that kind of stuff, usually goes into the small pots, whereas a lot of the mints that we grow and mist flowers, more pussy toes, short type stuff, we usually try to keep that in the 6-packs. And once we see a real nice batch of roots start to grow out of the bottom of the holes in the pots there, then that's our signal. It's time to get that stuff in the ground, assuming that we've met that frost-free day in the middle of May. Once we hit that date, I think it's May 15, then we start plunking stuff in the ground. So our little seedlings, like I said, they may only be 2 or 3 weeks old before we pot them up into a bigger pot. They may live in that bigger pot for another 3 or 4 weeks, and then they're getting plunked in the ground. So we tend to move things along fairly quickly. One other heating mechanism that I'll show you is back here in the back. Okay, hopefully you can see those bales of hay there. Our greenhouse, it actually is situated in an east-west direction, and our wind usually comes in from the west. And so what we do is we use those straw bales on the ends, especially the west end. We put those at the base of the skin of the greenhouse to try to keep the wind from kind of sneaking in underneath that skin. And so once again, another technique that we use to try to keep things a little warmed up in here. Let's see, anything else that I need to mention? I mean, that probably covers things for the most part. And once I realize not everybody has this kind of a setup, and everything's adaptable. If you're only wanting to grow a few plants, I mean, you can start the seeds on your windowsill in the kitchen. You don't need a $500 greenhouse to do that. But once again, several folks have been asking how we grow all this stuff from seed, so I wanted to give you an idea how we do it, and hopefully it's adaptable in some form to what you've got at your place. And so once again, I'll wish you a warm and dry next week. Everything I hear, it's not going to be that way, but we can at least hope. And we will see you next Monday. So take care. Bye.